Hey everyone, welcome back to another redstone video. Today I'm bringing you a leaf, sapling and wood farm. This is a nice and simple version to build. I have a slightly more complicated one for those who like a bit of over engineering, but I'm going to run you by this one and I'll show you the larger one after. Please remember, if you end up enjoying the video, make sure you leave a like and consider subscribing. I'm going to be building one of these in my Let's Play Survival world, so it would be nice to have you guys joining me there. But otherwise, onto the video. So the concept behind this is pretty straightforward. The idea was to be able to harvest leaves and make things a little bit easier. And the way I made things easier was to make it so that you're not really breaking down the logs as you're harvesting the trees. Now with the smaller version you've got here, I would ideally say this is probably best suited for oak trees. However, this can be used with all the different tree types except for acacia. This also goes for the larger one I'm going to show you. Do not use acacia for any of these, it will mess things up. So the idea behind this design and what makes it semi-automatic is that you need to place the saplings yourself. And essentially the idea is that you would go around to all the dirt blocks, go ahead and place some saplings down, and you would then go ahead and hit the harvest button. Sorry, being a bit stupid there. Anyway, so you'd go ahead and place those down. You'd go ahead and press this switch here. I'm going to go into creative mode, and that should grow all of the 12 trees that are available. Now this section is taking a little bit longer for it to get started because when you're using this machine for stuff like jungle logs, it does require a bit more growth time. But this for oak logs, you can see it goes a lot faster. So essentially all that happens is once the trees grow, the machine will push the logs out of the way into this little blast chamber. Just an FYI, in this blast chamber, add a little water collection system and you'll get all the logs back, and you can actually end up routing this to the collection system over there. And essentially all that happens is some well-timed TNT will come down, blow up every single piece of the logs, and they will end up in your storage system. Your plan then at that point is to come along with a silk touch hoe. Let me go into survival. And whilst the machine's actually moving forward, so I didn't do it this time, you want to go ahead and basically you can just go ahead and harvest all the logs. You want to use this route here because it's pretty much, besides this little dirt block here, are the only places where you might get leaves dropped that you wouldn't be collected by the system. So yeah, so your idea is to come along as the machine's running forward, go ahead and harvest these leaves. Just so you're aware of the most intended way for you to use this, ideally when you place the saplings down, you want to wait for the machine to start running, pushing the logs over, and then you want to come around with the netherite hoe and then poke things about. Just be careful you don't update any of the observers as they go past or hit any of the slime blocks. That will really mess things up. So again, just make sure you're leaving a little bit of space in between the machine going forward, and then once you get to this side as well, if you beat the machine over to the side, which you probably shouldn't, let it go back a little bit further out your way before you come back and harvest the rest of these leaves. The rest of it should be pretty straightforward, and the rest of it you should kind of get the understanding of. So here's the most basic version that you guys can see. This is really easy to build. I'd maybe consider adding a few item filters to it, and you should be good to go. Now here is the slightly over-engineered and quite unnecessary version. This is probably the version that I'll end up building in my Let's Play world or my survival world. And yeah, essentially the concept of this is still exactly the same as the other one. The difference being it's on a slightly larger scale. So in this scenario, basically what we have here is a few modes. We've got jungle mode, sapling harvesting mode, and oak mode. So I'll turn the harvesting sapling mode off for a second, and let's just go ahead and harvest some oak leaves and oak logs. So it essentially works the same. You want to come into this little chamber, place down some of these saplings here. You can see I've used carpets in the place they should be. You can copy this exact same thing over to the smaller idea. That way you can kind of walk around and just aim at the floor and not have to worry about selecting into a hopper. And again, once that's done, go ahead and flip the switch. Now that it's in oak only mode, you can see that the flying machines, they're quite large. Only half of them are actually going to end up running. That one's going to hit the slime blocks and push itself back, and only the necessary ones in oak mode will be running, and you should still get all of the oak logs that you're going to need from here. This should also return you a significant amount of saplings as well, and again you can just come along and harvest the oak leaves. Now I would advise that you only use oak mode for oak and potentially birch. Oak mode isn't all that useful for the smaller tree types. However, if you're using this only for leaves, I would actually encourage that you only use the oak mode for all the tree types, because it should make reaching the saplings a little bit easier, or sorry, reaching the leaves a little bit easier. although you can use the non-oak mode and just leave all of these off, and you should be able to harvest normal tree types on here as well, and they should be within reach for you to still get. So again, the concept works exactly the same as the other machine there, just with some extra functionalities, e.g. different height modes. So we'll go ahead and turn oak mode off, and then I'll show you jungle mode. And whilst we're running jungle mode, we'll also show you the sapling harvesting mode as well, because they usually jungle and sapling harvesting mode actually work pretty well in unison together, as you do need the sapling harvesting mode to make sure you get enough jungle saplings back if you're going to use this for a wood and sapling only farm. If you're obviously using leaves, you're going to have to try and do a few rounds where you just harvest the saplings, and then you can start harvesting the leaves from there. So same concept. Now that we've got both of them running, you'll just see what the difference is here. So we're going to go around one more time. Don't worry about the other leaves for now. We're not actually using this in practice, so we don't need to worry about wasting anything. So we come around here, same situation, press the button, and then you would ideally go along and harvest all of the jungle saplings. But you can see here, this is an issue that you're going to have. You're not going to be able to reach most of these up here anyway. Now, the difference between this mode is obviously a lot more of the flying machines are working, and actually you've now got the sapling harvesting system running around behind it. So that's breaking out as many leaves as we possibly can to give us a few extra saplings to make sure we've always got a positive return, more so when it comes to the jungle tree types. So once that's run, the TNT machine should all start working, and we should see that we get 100% return rate with all of the oak logs. Sorry, all of the jungle logs. Here we go. Perfect. That's all of the jungle logs there, and actually each round of just wood harvesting, I would say, you could get about a stack and a half of jungle logs at a time, which is actually very respectable, especially when you consider that it takes about less than about a minute or so to run this machine at a time, to get everything harvested and ready to use again. I would say about 60 seconds is about right. And again, jungle mode can be used with sapling harvesting mode. You can use sapling harvesting mode by itself. You can also use it in unison with oak mode. The only difference between using oak mode and jungle mode, I'll bring up birch. It just lets birches and spruce saplings grow a little bit longer, and they don't actually end up using the third flying machine. So you can see here, only 3 of the flying machines are being used on this occasion. And the reason why we do that is just to save on lag wherever we can. So when we're not using the jungle mode, there's no reason to fly the fourth flying machine. So we just kind of leave that one idle, and then we let 3 of those run. And then again, even with the sapling harvesting as well, it will only run the first 2 modules. The third module, I believe, will not go off, as that saves on just a little bit of height. As you can see at the top, there's not really enough leaves for it to crush anyway. So that's just a little advantage point of when you're using basically none of the modifiers here. So same concept, they'll all get blown up, you get them in your storage system, and that pretty much is the entire design. In addition to that, I've added some extras like having all the saplings going into a system where you can just hit the note block and then get all the saplings that you've harvested through that, and you've got all the sapling types. And then just down here, I've also added a bone meal dispensing system, so it runs on shulker boxes of bone meal. You can obviously replace this with a double chest if you really want to, and yeah, that means you don't have to worry about adding bone meal to the system very often. You don't have to worry about refilling it. Just chuck in your bone meal shulker boxes and it should be good to go. I think the very last thing to mention in all of this is kind of just the little collection area. Again, this is mostly just item filters and stuff like that. You don't need to add anything how I have done so here. Like I've made it so you get all the wood types and all of the leaf types here. You can add all the sapling types here as well if you'd like. I've even added a furnace array for all the sticks that you get in here, so they should be going into this system, which is currently not. I don't know if I added the item filter in properly, but anyway, you've got the system here if you want to use it. It just kind of puts some of your sticks to use, and probably just makes it a little bit more convenient if you want to do a quick bit of smelting here and there. So actually, this is an even more multi-function farm because you can have a smelter system running whilst you're harvesting wood and whilst you're harvesting leaves and saplings. It's a great deal if you ask me. As far as the system's concerned, one warning I would give you is to make sure you do not press the harvesting button, which is the button you press when you set off the flying machines in both versions. Make sure you do not set the system off when you don't have any wood to harvest. what is going to happen is that machine is going to get to the end. It's going to have nothing to have pushed it into, which means the time it takes to come back is going to be even longer, and there's a potential that it will blow up the entire system, or at least the flying machines. So make sure that when you're pressing the button to harvest, there should be at least a couple trees to harvest. Even if you're not using all 12 of them, make sure there's at least a couple on each side, just to make sure you don't have anything blowing up. And the very last thing I would like to mention is obviously just be a bit careful when you're placing observers down and when you're building this up. My advice to you is to use Litematica, like I mentioned with all of my builds. With something like this, I'm not going to do a block by block tutorial, so Litematica is your friend in this scenario. However, if you do decide enough people are interested in it, I'm happy to do a block by block tutorial of this one. It's a lot more smaller and easier to manage, so I'm happy to do that for you guys as well. It's obviously if there's any interest in it, but generally speaking, the build's pretty straightforward. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, anything you're not sure of, make sure you leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.